What's a non-obvious sign that somebody is wealthy? Back in my college days, we had a friend who came from a pretty wealthy family, but you couldn't tell because he lived in the dorms like everyone else. Except any time someone suggested we go to a restaurant, or to a game, or show, he never asked about how much it cost or said he'd have to check his bank account like other people would say. Then one day he casually mentioned his father was going to bring him back to campus in their helicopter. A professor friend of mine asked a student if she needed an extension because she had to make an emergency trip home to Europe. She replied that it wasn't an emergency. Her parents just wanted to see her, and that it wasn't that inconvenient. They sent the family jet to pick her up from her pretty rural school. Reminds me at this joke about the Saudi prince who gets sent to Europe to study there at a university. One day he writes in a letter to his father, "I must confess, though, that I feel a bit ashamed. Every day, when I arrive at university in my golden Ferrari, I see my fellow students get out off the bus or the tram." Skip forward a couple of days, then the letter of his father arrives. "Dear son, we can't afford a member of our glorious family being ashamed. This would mean shame for the whole family. You will find a check about $1 million in this letter. Go and get yourself a bus and a tram ASAP." Quite a few people who grow up with wealth conceal it. If they don't want you to know, you won't. During college, I was dating a man for the better part of a year before finding out that his parents' residence was an entire floor of a fashionable Upper East Side Manhattan building. Their summer house was in Paris. One of his worries in life was about attracting parasites, so he had anticipated anything that could give away how much money was in his background. Occasionally it was useful to tip that hand. His mother had worn her mink coat when she co-signed his apartment lease. He spent modestly on dates and wore ordinary clothes. He had put a lot of thought into looking like a middle-class guy. I knew paying bills wasn't a problem for him, but he was kind of embarrassed when he revealed what his situation actually was. Wealthy people worry about time, the only resource and commodity that doesn't replenish. Edit, I'm not wealthy by any stretch. But I'm slowly starting to value my time more than my money. I think it's a healthier way to be. Time enjoyed is not wasted. Didn't realize how wealthy some casual acquaintances were until we were at a nicer bar at a resort, and as soon as the staff saw their credit card they started getting really good service. It was a nice place and they were great to everyone, but suddenly this couple were like the only ones on the room. So apparently the color of your credit card, which I don't think is always a giveaway, but people in some industries just probably know rich person credit cards. Many super high-end cards are heavy. I'm talking it's made of metal kind of heavy. It's pretty obvious. If you live in Silicon Valley, you won't be able to spot the poor from the rich. You can have a millionaire walk next to you in Target pants and drive a Honda. Too true. I used to run a computer store near Silicon Valley, and we would have customers that were all sorts of scary-looking mountain men, smelly hippie-looking dudes, and other homeless-looking types come in and buy our top-of-the-line products with rolls of cash or high-end credit cards. I had to train my staff to treat everyone very gently when they came in, and to never judge a book by its cover, no matter how they looked or unfortunately smelled. Edit, this was also before housing prices there got ridiculous. They don't flaunt it, don't talk about money, and never complain about money problems. They rarely or never talk about money in everyday conversations. There's a saying that there's an inverse correlation between how wealthy someone is and how often they mention money, but it's not that easy or obvious to gauge how often someone actually talks about money without interacting with them a lot. Their kids have no pressure to get regular, middle-class jobs. Some families I know have 3 to 4 kids, and are very proud. This one is an artist, that one is 40 and getting a PhD. The other acts and directs local theater. It's a subtle status symbol to support your kid in whatever. I have a minor panic attack. How does that pay the bills? But it doesn't have to. I don't see a lot of designer purses or granite countertops, but a lot of art, and every piece, there's an accompanying story about being in that country, or knowing that artist stayed in their house, etc. They don't take pictures with cash in their hands and put it on Instagram. Had a roommate in first year who rarely lived in the dorm but had food delivered daily that tasted like it was picked out and cooked the same morning. Well, we invite him to St. Patty's Day and I notice his watch, to which I drop a "That's really cool, mind I see it," half drunk. I saw the watch face and asked him about the symbol. Mind you, this watch was really heavy as I am holding it, and he says, "It's the family sigil." I was holding a 23K gold watch, and he turned out to be part of the Qatari royal family. Dude could easily stunt on any one of us. So I guess it's the small things in their lifestyle, and how modestly someone can wear $100,000 on their wrist. I went to university with 2 girls from Qatar. They seemed all normal like the rest of us until we found out that they each had a maid escorting them abroad for the duration of their studies. They don't know when payday is. If you have a small amount of savings and aren't living paycheck to paycheck, then you won't notice. I don't notice when payday is, and I'm definitely not rich, just middle class with some savings. It's certainly not 100%, but one sign could be expensive hobbies. A lot of wealthy people I knew growing up didn't think of themselves as wealthy at all. But not a lot of skilled wakeboarders, or horseback riders, or outdoorsmen, or snowboard/skiers could have reached that point without having money. But then again, I have a cheap ski hill in my town, and knew a few lower-class kids who were unreal because their parents would buy them a ski pass and gear, knowing that they could leave them at the hill for extended times rather than hiring a babysitter or doing an after-school program or anything, while they were at work, so it can go both ways. They never mentioned money or their status. True story. My friend went to college and befriended a girl. After 2 years they took a class together, made a presentation, saw the girl's full name. In our culture your full name is your name, father's name, family name, and was shocked to realize her father was the next in line ruler of the country. She used her name, father's name, throughout college so people wouldn't know who she really was. Teeth. Their teeth are perfectly white and perfectly aligned. Their time is more valuable than their money. So if you see they are more concerned about how long something will take, rather than how expensive, that's a tip-off. Spend money to save time versus spending time to save money. Potentially the wristwatch. Of course there's gold Rolexes and the like, but brands like Patek Philippe make pieces that cost as much as a house that you wouldn't look twice at. It's like a secret, but public, calling card. The average person notices a Rolex. The other person of similar wealth notices that you're wearing an obscure but much more expensive brand and decides you're worth talking to. I said this before on Reddit and it didn't go over too well. A Rolex is what a wealthy person gives their kid for their bar mitzvah or HS graduation. A Patek Philippe is what a wealthy person wears because it makes a statement without saying a word. It's funny. Poor people are insecure and show off what they have. The uber-rich folks I know don't give a fuck and dress like they're homeless. You mean all those people on the streets with cardboard signs asking for money are actually rich? The nerve. I work at a luxury car dealership, so I see my fair share of wealthy people. The one thing that stands out between them and regular people is how carefree and nice they are. I crashed a lady's car once, pretty badly, and all she did was laugh and say, "The important thing is that you're not hurt." I was astonished since I'm used to my mom being so frantic and, frankly, abusive to employees if even the slightest thing is wrong. They don't necessarily get bent out of shape and treat the help poorly, but they also are very clear about what they want and will go elsewhere if you don't give it to them. I worked in a luxury dealership for a few years, and the thing I noticed more than anything was how willing they were to walk away over very silly things. I can't get the saddle interior with the carbon accents without special ordering? I wanted this car for my ski trip next weekend, guess I'll get something else. They're in good shape, eat right, and exercise regularly. Rich people tend to put more value in delayed gratification. While good physical fitness and diet correlate with wealth, there are also plenty of wealthy people who are fat and never exercise. Obesity is much more prevalent among poor people. It also inhibits one's socioeconomic mobility. When's the last time you saw a rich man marry a fat woman? For women, I say their hair tells a lot about how much money they have. Rich women with thin hair get extensions. Their hair is dyed by someone who picks out the most flattering tone and shade for them. They get treatments and blowouts regularly. Whenever I run into a celebrity at the grocery store or wherever in LA, the first thing I always notice is their hair. It's always nice, and noticeably more coiffed or cut or dyed more fashionably than others around, even if it's unkempt. Also their shoes. I saw the actress from the first True Detective, Alexandra Daddario, at Trader Joe's last week, and those were the first things I noticed. They pay their parking tickets as soon as they get them. How they tip. Not to say that rich people inherently tip more or whatever, but I have some friends that will go through and figure out what 15% of a bill is, and others that will just do 20% outright because the math is easier and it's not worth it to them to do the rest. For what it's worth, I also have met rich folks who are super penny pinchers and will do the math every time. Not a surefire tell, but the manner in which someone tips can be a data point. What's a non-obvious sign that somebody is wealthy? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.